Greetings, my name is Neosekken, and welcome back to my Let's Play of Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney. In the last episode, we, put ourselves into a very awkward position, to say the least, when using some evidence that we found hidden in Chief Gant's safe in the police department, while going over some testimony that Emma was providing on what she recalled of the night that Joe Dark ended up killing Neil Marshall right in front of her. We've ended up piecing together a theory that ends up introducing a completely different scenario from what everybody assumed actually happened up until now. That being that rather than Joe Dark having stabbed Neil Marshall to death right before Emma fainted from the traumatic memory of it, right before Emma fainted, she went into a panic and in total darkness inside the office, ended up rushing towards the two men, intending to push the one that had the other on the ground, ready to stab them, away from the man on the ground. And the man, who we suspect was actually Neil Marshall rather than Joe Dark, ended up getting flung into a nearby suit of armor that had a sharp javelin in its hand. And this javelin ended up piercing his lung and heart, thus causing him to bleed to death and, well, expire. But Emma ended up blocking this part of the incident out of her mind until we've essentially, well, forced her to remember it. She is understandably got upset by it. She fainted, and, well, yeah. Things are not looking good for Emma right now. And Chief Gant is just laughing at my misery, undoubtedly. So, hopefully, everything will go well with me being able to turn this around and get that orange bastard to stop, laughing at my misfortune. Because, frankly, I've had enough of his bullshit. So we're going to go ahead and get the latter half of this trial started and see if we can put an end to this SL9 business once and for all. February 25th, 12:06. District Court, Defendant Lobby Number 2. Sorry, Edgeworth. I didn't mean to get you in trouble. Don't worry about it. This is my problem, not yours. Wrong. I mean, Emma's been pretty much my assistant throughout this entire chapter, and she's kind of in a bad spot right now, thanks to us. Hope I'm not interrupting anything, pals. Nothing important. To you. Oh, guess I am. I'll come back later. Wait! Detective Gumshoe. What is it? You've got a lot of nerve, pal. Making a detective run all around while on duty. And to top it off, you call me here. I've seen happier people at funerals. Weren't you fired from being a detective? I take it Lana's having you run errands again. Let me tell you, this is the last time, pal. Here. She asked me to give this to you if there was a break in today's trial. What a cute cover for evidence law. Evidence law? Edgeworth was talking about this just the other day. You must know 2 rules of evidence law. Rule number 1, no evidence shall be shown without the approval of the police department. We never really went over the second law, did we? The chief prosecutor also wanted me to give you a message. A message? She said, if you're planning to take him on, you're going to need this book. Him. I guess I'll need to give this book a thorough read. Agreed. Evidence law from Miss Sky explains the 2 rules of evidence law. Alright, let's go over this thing. Rules for submitting evidence. Rule number 1. No evidence shall be shown without the approval of the police department. And number 2, unregistered evidence presented must be relevant to the case on trial. We need to remember these rules before we proceed into the later half of this trial, because I promise you they will be very important going forward. Especially rule number 2. And that's all I'll say on the matter. Doesn't look like that book will do you any good now, though. I disagree. All that's left now is the chief prosecutor's sentence. That's where you're wrong, detective. Huh? Haven't you figured it out yet? Why I'm still sitting in that prosecutor's seat, despite all these allegations being thrown at me. Because you just like to make people suffer. Especially me. Mr. Edgeworth, the real trial today hasn't begun yet. What? What else is there left to do? Your credibility's been all but ruined with this forged evidence you were unaware of. Emma Skye found out she's unwittingly caused a man's death. And now you're telling me you want to do more? You gotta be kidding me, pal! You're missing the point, detective. Lana didn't murder Detective Goodman. She merely stuck a knife into his dead body. That means the real killer is still out there. And I'm pretty sure we all know who he is by now. What? And we're going to expose him, no matter what it takes. This case has hurt too many people. It's time to bring it to an end. No need to tell me twice. February 25th, 1252. District Court, courtroom number 9. Court will now reconvene for the trial of Miss Lana Skye. Mr. Edgeworth. Yes, Your Honor. The Inquiry Committee is planning to impose harsh penalties for your actions. Thank you for the news, Your Honor. Yes, well... Normally, this is where the prosecution calls forth a witness. But, this isn't easy to say. You see, there is some concern that you, Mr. Edgeworth, may have, struck a bargain. You think I may have manipulated the witnesses. I didn't say that! No, but you were strongly implying it. It's just, you see, everyone's been talking and now you're all but stating it. Very well, Your Honor. I have a solution. A solution? That being the case, the prosecution will allow the defense to call forth all further witnesses. What? But there's no precedent for what you're proposing. Undeniably, this is an unusual arrangement, but a very effective one. It would prove that I haven't struck any deals with the witnesses. Unless, of course, number 1, I end up calling a witness that he had struck a deal with by pure chance, or number 2, he and I are working together, along with the witnesses. So it's not quite as effective as you think it is when you stop and think about it. Well, Mr. Wright, what do you say? But it would be to my benefit if I let the judge think it's effective, so... Unbelievable. Edgeworth has found a way to continue the trial. Very well. The defense accepts the prosecution's proposal. Then it's settled. The defense may now call forth the next witness. Mr. Wright. You do realize this is your last chance. You don't really need to tell me that, warthog. Sorry, I keep calling you your car. If you call the wrong witness, This trial's as good as over. The defense calls. Time's finally come to bring out the real murderer. Okay, orange guy. I'm gonna dye your suit a deeper shade of orange with your sweat. Once I have you sweating in fear on the witness stand. Damon Gant. The defense calls Damon Gant to the stand. Damon Gant? What does he have to do with anything? Everything, Santa Claus. And you'll see why in mere minutes. As the defendant's partner 2 years ago, Mr. Gant has first-hand knowledge of the crime. I feel we should hear what he has to say about it. As luck would have it, he should still be in the courthouse. He would also be the least likely to have been manipulated by me in any way. That's the truest thing you've said throughout this entire trial. Wouldn't you agree, Your Honor? True. All right. Bailiff, please escort Mr. Gant to the stand. Final round, buddy. Witness, please state your name and occupation. What is this? Some kind of practical joke? For me it will be, once I defeat you. I'll be laughing. I was just on my way to lunch. Your name and occupation, sir. Worthy. Are you sure you want to do this? Your name and occupation! So, you want to play hardball, eh? Please, Mr. Gant. Fine. My name is Damon Gant. I'm the acting chief of police. Now then, Chief Gant. The court requests to hear your testimony. Oh, righto! What's with that grim face? First, let's clear up this SL9 incident. Oh, you mean that time when Lana's sister murdered that prosecutor? Personally, I think it's been made pretty clear already. There are still some things unaccounted for. Oh? Like what? Like the role you played in all of this. Son, either you're very brave, or very foolish. I would say that on an average day, I'm a little bit of both. You are aware, of course, that a police chief has all kinds of weapons at his disposal. Yes, but at the end of the day, a weapon is only as good as its wielder. As I'm going to demonstrate to you very shortly. Weapons. Sure. Take my testimony, for example. I don't have to give it if I don't want to. What? Is that true? Well, yes, he can decline to give testimony. I'm afraid so. The chief of police has the right to refuse to testify. Of course, such an action carries with it certain risks. Don't worry, I'm not here to hinder your trial. That is the most untruthful thing I've heard you say ever. Just remember, if this turns out to be a big waste of time, don't say I didn't warn you. Very well. The witness may now begin his testimony. I assure you, it won't be a waste of your time, sir. Or mine. Especially mine. SL9 incident. As I recall, Neil and I were questioning him that day. To make a long story short, we slipped up. That power outage didn't help either. When I went to my office, I found Alana there. Apparently she had already arranged a crime scene. As you can see, I had nothing to do with the forgery. Well, there is those pieces of evidence that we found in that safe of yours. Is that when Dark was arrested? Him? He was lying on the floor unconscious. When Emma sent Neil flying, it seems Dark bumped his head. I see. Everything seems pretty clear-cut. If the police chief has the right to refuse to testify, then I better hit him hard and fast. I think I got press on everything. Try to draw as much information out of him as possible before I can find an opening, if memory serves. So let's begin. As I recall, a ceremony was held at the police department that day. Yes, that's right. I guess you could say I'm a workaholic. Being the mastermind behind the police department and the prosecutor's office, I imagine you must be a very busy individual indeed. After winning his award, Neil was all fired up too. That's probably what spooked Dark and made him run away like that. Was the defendant, Lana Skye, also present in the room? I don't quite remember. At the very least, she wasn't there when Dark ran for it. To make a long story short, we slipped up. That power outage didn't help either. So the two of you ran immediately after him, right? That's right, but Dark made it to the elevator first. So Neil and I split up. He went upstairs and I went downstairs. I guess you could say he got lucky. More like unlucky. What's this about a power outage? Oh, that. The elevator stopped all of a sudden, and I got the shock of my life. Well, probably not as shocked as Neil was when that knife went into his heart, though. Don't disrespect the dead, you dick. It's not funny. When I went to my office, I found Alana there. Could you tell us what you saw? It was a shocking sight. Neil and that serial killer are lying in a heap on the floor, all tangled together. Dark was also lying collapsed on the floor. Yes, apparently he hit his head and was knocked out. Next to them were those two poor girls, Lana and Emma. Lana was cradling Emma in her arms. Looking back at it now, she must have already known what her sister had done. Apparently, she had already arranged the crime scene. How can you know that? Because of the victim's body. It had already been moved. So that means you found the body near Lana's desk. That's right. I think you said earlier it was my suit of armor that really stabbed the prosecutor. Yes. Anyway, as you can see, I had nothing to do with the forgery. So you're saying that the forgery had already taken place by the time you arrived at your office? That's exactly what I'm saying. I can understand how Lana must have felt. But moving a body and hide evidence are inexcusable no matter what the circumstances. You're one to talk. Is that how it really went down? Staring at the witness won't do you any good, Mr. Wright. If you're going to stare at anything, you'd be better off staring at the court record. Worthy. Always the smooth talker. Which piece of evidence ties Gant to the forgery? Lana did admit to forging evidence, but that can't be the whole truth. Somehow I've got to link Gant to the incident. Okay, I guess I didn't get an opening out of this. So, let's see. We have the jar, and we have the cloth. So, we also, I think, have this evidence list that we could present as well. I'm just trying to think, which one do I need to present here? I'm gonna go on a hunch and say try the evidence list first. Okay, there we go. You claim you had nothing to do with the forgery. But I'm afraid that is a claim you cannot back up. Explain yourself. With pleasure. Several pieces of evidence were found in your office. Take this list for example. That's the list Emma Skye drew her picture on. This was discovered in your desk. Not only that, but a piece of this jar that was sitting in your office was found inside your safe. It was found where? Pay attention, Santa Claus. You see, Chief Gant, these articles of evidence uncovered in your office are both concrete proof that you also played a part in the illegal investigation. Chief Gant, what's the meaning of this? Oh. Here's a defense attorney who may even rile a worthy. So you admit to it then, that you were involved in the forgery. Who, me? Or do you mean you? Me? Why would I have anything to do with that? Well, you were the one who snuck into my office when you found this evidence. Got a point there. Prosecutors aren't the only ones capable of forging evidence, you know. Defense attorneys can do so too. Isn't that right, Righto? However, Detective Gumshoe was present during the investigation. Worthy, my boy. Not even detectives are exempt from the law. Rest assured, Dick will receive his due punishment. What? If Detective Gumshoe's salary drops any further, he'll end up paying to work. I think his salary dropping will be the least of his concerns, if you ask me. Considering who he's going to end up dealing with if we fail. Yes, well, in light of the detective's presence, please give us your testimony regarding these pieces of evidence you found in your office. And in relation to the forgery that took place at the crime scene. My. Kids these days no longer know how to put two and two together. Evidence and forgery. Let's see, what was it now? A jar fragment and a list? For all I know, you could have planted them in my office. Anyway, you can't prove when those pieces of evidence were discovered. If they were found after Dark was convicted, then they're worthless. There's no reason I participate in a forgery. Rearranging the crime scene wouldn't help me out in any way. Well, it would actually give you some leverage over Lana. Mr. Wright. Yes, Your Honor? We're investigating the crime scene. You should have been more careful to observe protocol. Judge, I ignore protocol willy-nilly when it suits my needs. I've been doing that since like the second case. Protocol kind of means nothing to me in this court, and to be fair, it doesn't really mean much of anything to the prosecution either. I will never let you forget that updated autopsy report, Edgewort. You do understand that I am the chief of police, right? There will be consequences. Consequences will never be the same! After I'm through with you, Chief. Oh. Indeed, I believe I'll press charges. So you won't make the same mistake again. My apologies, Chief, but would you mind waiting until tomorrow for that? Today is... well, you know. Alright, Udgy. In return, though... I know. That place, right? Huh? What are these guys? Telepathic? No, they could just be really good acquaintances. Okay, I'm just going to press on everything again until something really speaks out to me here. I'd appreciate it if you'd stop making these ridiculous allegations. Yes, you do have a point. You wouldn't have the guts to do something like that. What? I'll have you know, back in the day I once broke into a cattle ranch and tipped... Mr. Wright, what are you saying? You heard what he almost admitted to, ladies and gentlemen. Squeenix, the cow tipper. Cow tipping Squeenix. Anyway, you can't prove you didn't carry it in the evidence, can you? If you have proof to the contrary, you're going to need it later. Later? What are you talking about? What else? I'm talking about when Rito's prints are found. Yes. If they're found inside my safe, they would prove his investigation was illegal. Your face ain't one as slimy as this guy. Well, don't worry. We can still win this. Okay. What do you mean by that? This is all purely hypothetical, of course. But suppose I did place those items in my safe. Such an act wouldn't necessarily constitute forgery. If concealing evidence found at a crime scene isn't forgery... I'm not through speaking yet, Righto. It all depends on when the evidence was discovered. If they were found after Dark was convicted in the huh? Are you saying this jar fragment wasn't discovered in the initial investigation? It would appear not. After all, it wasn't listed in the evidence list. For all we know, it could have suddenly materialized the day after Dark was sentenced. Yeah, what a bunch of shit. Oh, and wouldn't that be convenient? Right. The chief is talking about a possibility. So long as you can't rule that out. Your remarks, however clever they may be, will only succeed in wasting time. Tell me something I don't know. Come now, Righto. Think about it. There's no reason I participate in a forgery. I disagree. How can you look at me in the eye and say that? Because I'm innocent. Remember? Who was it that murdered Neil? I'm not sure I care for the word murder here. Hell, but it's pretty damn late for you to show your displeasure with the word murder in this court, Sir Judge. But in the end, the person responsible for Mr. Marshall's unfortunate demise was Emma Skye. Well, now do you see? Rearranging the crime scene wouldn't help me out in any way. Really, Chief Gant. At the very least, there is one very large benefit you've reaped from all of this. Oh, I wasn't aware. What is this benefit? That would of course be the position you have. Chief of Police. Oh. The resolution of the SL9 incident secured your promotion to Chief. That in itself is sufficient motive. Ho ho ho! Oh, that's a good one! huh? Do you really think I'm that incompetent? What do you mean? Even without that case, I was already in line to become the next chief. The resolution of SL9 merely sped up the inevitable a little. Is that true, Edgeworth? Yes. He was going to be made chief anyway. Well, shit. You kind of lost that little trump card. Be careful when pointing that finger, or you might wind up being the one pointed at. No, I think a more likely possibility is that I'd end up poking some criminal's eye out. So that means there's only one possible motivation for you to commit forgery. If you didn't do it for yourself, then you did it for someone else. Don't be silly, Worthy. You know me better than that. There are only 3 people I look out for. Me, myself, and I. Well, you've heard it, ladies and gentlemen. Only Gant exists in his world, because that's the only person that he can find when he looks around in it. There. It's out in the open now. Udgy, would you mind if I changed my testimony a little? By all means, please do. I wouldn't be anyone's accomplice if there was nothing in it for me. Okay, here's my opening. Nothing in it for you. Sorry, but the only person I care about is yours truly. That girl. Blonde's little sister, was it? If you think I felt sorry for her, you better think again. You're right. You don't feel sorry for anyone. Be tough on crime and tough on people. That's how I was raised. Apparently you were raised a little too well with that creed. You seem to be lax enough on yourself, though. Ha 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 ho! Oh, that's a good one, Worthy. Could there have been something in it for him? Given his selfishness, would he have helped someone out? No. Bah! I can't think of how it would help him. That means he wouldn't have helped out anyone. Relax and take a deep breath, Mr. Wright. Try to think outside the box. After all, that's what you're good at, isn't it? Think outside the box. Never thought I'd hear him tell me that. Well, let me see if I can figure out where we're going with this. I think what we need to be asking ourselves is not what, not would he help somebody, if it was not would he help somebody, but why he had to help somebody, right? Something to that effect. The question isn't who would the chief help, it's who would ask the chief for help. Never mind, I was off the ball with this one. I didn't think far enough outside the box. If someone did that, he'd be sure to find a way to benefit from that person. It appears the defense has nothing more to say. Chief, would you please repeat your testimony from the beginning? Okay, then. Okay. Let's press on this again and point out an accomplice this time. True, you might not help anyone for their sake. But if it would benefit you, you might decide to assist someone. Mr. Wright, it appears you're positively determined to betray the chief, as a nice man who likes to lend people a hand. Well, he does have $50 on his person at all times, it seems. So, that's not what I mean. Very well then. Who is this person you believe Chief Gant may have helped forge evidence? Well, Lana, of course. Chief Prosecutor Lana Skye. The defendant? I believe it's quite obvious in light of the circumstances. Emma Skye fell victim to an unfortunate series of events. Who would want to help her more than her own sister, Lana? As for Chief Gant, he would also have a reason to help Lana if she asked him to. That reason, of course, is self-profit. Self-profit? What do you mean? After the SL9 incident was resolved, Lana Skye was appointed chief prosecutor at the prosecutor's office. The person who arranged this job change was you, Chief Gant. But how would he profit from all of this? He would be able to use the chief prosecutor as his puppet. Essentially, he would acquire unchecked authority over all investigations. Do you mean to tell me that despite the chief's formidable appearance, he plays with puppets? That is the funniest thing I've heard you say in this entire game. Never change, Santa Claus. Never change. Oh, wait. There you go. Now the hamster is back on the wheel. You must mean puppet, as in someone forced to do his bidding. Never mind. Admit it, Chief. You assisted Lana Skye in forging evidence. Your motive: to appoint her as chief prosecutor so you could control her. Righto, my boy. You have quite an imagination. Let me ask you something. What? Do you have any proof of this? That I controlled Lana? For example, is Lana testifying that I've done such a thing? Lana. She's keeping quiet to protect Emma. There's no way she'd testify against Gant. I'm afraid without any proof, this all amounts to nothing more than mere conjecture. Unless that is also what happened in this incident. This incident? Which one would that be? Well, the one we've been going on trial for the past few days, of course. Of course I'm talking about the murder of Detective Bruce Goodman. The chief prosecutor has been acting strange throughout this entire trial. Almost as if someone has been controlling her. Worthy, you'd better watch your tongue. I wouldn't want you to get hurt. Your threats have no effect on him. Mine certainly don't. Just what do you mean? What he means, Your Honor, is that Chief Gant is involved in the murder of Detective Goodman. Not only that, but the Chief is now making Lana take the rap to cover up his involvement. What? Order! I said order! Mr. Wright, you can't be serious. Oh, I assure you, I am dead serious. Huh? This is an affront to the highest-ranking officer in our law enforcement agency. I'll let you know when I decide to care. To accuse the chief of police of blackmail and murder? Impossible! Your Honor, I was merely reiterating that what Mr. Edgeworth said in easier to understand language. It's too late, Mr. Wright. Fuck you! That's what you were saying! There's no turning back for us now. Looks like he's the one who's decided to go through with this. I decided to go through with this before both of you asshats did. So buckle up, boys! I'm driving this van right off this cliff. Can you prove this, Mr. Wright? That the chief, a high-ranking officer of the law, is involved in this murder? Good question. Regardless of his rank or title, Chief Gant is just a man. And what is a man? A miserable pile of secrets. And he is certainly a big pile if I ever saw one. I'm sorry, I just couldn't resist making a Castlevania reference. The question is he a criminal? I believe the evidence will tell. I see. Alright then. Let's see what Mr. Wright's got. And it better be good. May I remind you that Edgewort was the one who raised this possibility? But whatever, fine. I guess I gotta do it. Show us this evidence that ties Chief Gant to the murder of Detective Goodman. Let's see. What is this evidence? I want to say the jar? Well, Chief, so long as Ryo here is tossing out things regardless of their relevance, shit. Mind if I toss something too udgy? This shoe should do nicely. I'll chuck it right at you. Well, it's not a boot to the head, but I mean it'll still hurt. You were always quite the joker, weren't you? Oops. Looks like I got it wrong. Don't oops me! Maybe this boot to the head will knock some sense into you! There's the boot to the head! I love that old video. I know it's hard with all that's going on during this trial. But try to think back to what happened in the evidence room 4 days ago. Now that he mentions it, we did find something during yesterday's investigation. Something that proves Gant entered that... Oh shit, the ID record! Looks like he wants another one of your boots, G. I'll endure 100 boots to the head if that's what it'll take to get me to win this thing, you bastard. I can take it! I've had a basketball hit me on the head once. I see. Alright then. Let's see what Mr. Wright's got. And it better be good. Show us this evidence that ties Chief Gant to the murder of Detective Goodman. Okay. Here, let's try this. This is the ID card. This is the ID card list. Yes, the one that shows who entered the evidence room on the day of the crime. There was one ID on the list we couldn't determine the owner of yesterday. 777777. Sorry, but there's no way you can prove that's my card number. It's your number. We got an exclamation mark out of you! What? How do you know that? The safe in Chief Gant's office requires a code to open. A 7-digit code. 7 digits. You don't mean... I'm afraid so, Your Honor. The code was 777777. The same as the remaining ID card number on that list. Chief Gant! You entered the evidence room on the day of the crime! Oh, look at him! Even his eyebrow is twitching. Told you I'd make you sweat, buddy. Order! Order! Chief Gant! What do you have to say? Nothing. The defense's search in my office was in violation of regulations. And I will demand Mr. Wright be punished to the maximum extent of the law. But right now, this court demands an explanation from you. About the use of this ID card. Shake your fist all you want at me. I got you now. Chief Gant, so you admit it? You entered the evidence room on the day of the crime? What about it? I the chief of police. Whether it's the evidence room or the bathroom. What's the difference? I can go anywhere I want. Tell me, when you entered the room, were you alone? I always go to the bathroom alone, as I do with the evidence room. Detective Goodman wouldn't have happened to be with you that day, would he? Of course not! Why would he be? I hadn't seen him in days! You hadn't seen him in days? Chief Gant, I'm afraid you've just undone yourself. Yes, you did. On that day, you had to have met with Detective Goodman. What do you mean? This trial's purpose is to determine Lana Sky's guilt. No, it isn't, Your Honor. This trial's purpose is to determine the truth. You've come a long way from the asshole that I met in Chapter 2 of this game. I'm so proud of you, Edgewort. I'm still not gonna let you live down that updated autopsy report, though. If Chief Gant met the victim on the day of the crime, then we need to determine one thing. What transpired during that meeting? In that case, Mr. Wright, I'm going to have to ask you for evidence. Show us proof that the victim went to meet Chief Gant on the day of the crime. Okay. We got the lost item report. Detective Goodman lost his ID card on the day of the crime. Or to be more accurate, Jake Marshall stole it. So Detective Goodman filed out a lost item report. He would have had to give that report to the chief of police. Yet you are in possession of the report. Which means you can't be sure if he filed it. He filed it. How do I know, you ask? Because he needed to enter the evidence room that day. He needed to. Yes. To transfer the evidence out. Oh. Detective Goodman took the form to you, Chief Gant. Then, you accompanied the detective to the evidence room. And since we've established that Bruce Goodman was undoubtedly killed before anybody else who showed up in that room that day, guess what, buddy? I accompanied him? There's no other way the murderer and Detective Goodman could have entered the room. Hold on. Let me guess what you're going to say next. I, the chief of police, murdered poor Goodman. Exactly. But wait! The chief didn't necessarily need to accompany him to the evidence room. He could just lend him his ID card. Yes. Now that you mention it, I believe I might have done something of the sort. Yeah, no. Sorry, but that's not possible. According to the record, your card was only used once. Yet you showed us your ID card earlier. If you had really lent it to Detective Goodman, it would have been found on his body! Exactly! No! Now, if that didn't look like a god of thunder and lightning to you, I don't know what would. Chief Gant, you didn't! The murder was most likely a spur-of-the-moment crime, for no one in their right mind would choose the police department as a place to commit murder. After the murder, you contacted Lana at the prosecutor's office. Why? To dispose of Detective Goodman's body, of course. You're forgetting, Mr. Wright, that the victim's body was discovered in the prosecutor's office's parking lot. How did he manage to move it there? I was at the police department the entire day, you know. And everyone's aware that Lana stayed at the prosecutor's office after the ceremony. Everyone except me, it seems. Still, you're the chief of police. You have an entire police force at your disposal. Oh, so you think I just ordered an officer to do it? Hey, you! Take this here dead body over to the prosecutor's office. I don't think so. Chief Gant, you left all the evidence we need to prove how you moved the body to the prosecutor's office. And I know what it is. And all this time I thought it was a useless clue just taking up space. How could the chief have moved the body? Mr. Wright, show us this evidence. To move the victim's body, Chief Gant used this. Remember the screwdriver that he had Edgeworth go pick up for him at the police department to hold over at the prosecutor's office? This is it. This is how he moved Detective Goodman's body. What's that? A screwdriver. But what does that have to do with this case? Mr. Edgeworth, think back to the day of the crime. What is this screwdriver doing here? It's here because... I was asked to go by Chief Gant, no less. He told me he wanted me to keep it here in the prosecutor's office. In any case, on the day of the stabbings, I brought this back here. After the ceremony ended that day, I didn't plan to return to the prosecutor's office. But you did, because Chief Gant asked you to. You mean I was played like a fiddle. The body was found in the trunk of Mr. Edgeworth's car. I think it's obvious what happened. The body was moved by that car! Detective Goodman's body was carried in the trunk of Mr. Edgeworth's car! Yes. Unless, of course, you have another explanation, Chief. Why else would you have asked Mr. Edgeworth to transfer evidence from a closed case? There's only one plausible explanation. To transport the body to your accomplice, Miss Lana Skye! Order! 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 What's going on here? Is there no room for rebuttal to the defense's outrageous accusations? Think back to the photographs Miss Starr took at the prosecutor's office. This was not a photo of the body being stuffed in the trunk to be taken away. It was exactly the opposite. It is a photo of the body being taken from the trunk. Chief Gant, please, say something. I believe your time's up. My time's up? Sorry, Wright, but I'm having lunch with the District Attorney General after this. We have to get going if we're going to make it in time for the early bird special. I'll lasso you if I have to. But the cross-examination isn't finished yet. Remember what I told you earlier? A police chief has all kinds of weapons at his disposal. Weapons. Like the right to refuse to testify. I'm invoking that right now. What? That's not a right to be casually invoked. And I think you're kind of well beyond the safety zone of invoking that sort of thing. Because, I mean, you already look pretty bad right now. There are certain risks to be considered. So you're going to just run away after all this? Run away? Don't make me laugh, Worthy. Well, that is what you're doing. I stabbed old Goodman. That's what you're saying, right? Well, if you had any conclusive evidence, you would have presented it by now. Well, we gotta kind of build up our case, you dick. You think I had Lana dispose of the body? If so, then show your proof and get it over with. I'll say it again, Mr. Wright. Damon Gant is the current chief of police. This court will not tolerate any accusations against him without concrete proof. Well, Mr. Wright, Your Honor, do you have any concrete proof? Proof that Chief Gant murdered Detective Goodman made Miss Skye dispose of his body. Do I have any concrete proof? I want to say I do, but I unfortunately don't have that proof yet. It's no use showing evidence I'm not even sure of myself. No, Your Honor. At present, I have no conclusive evidence. See, G. In that case, this court is forced to penalize you for your allegations against the chief. What? Here's a tip. Never gamble what you can't afford to lose, Righto. It seems that Lady Luck was on my side again today. Okay, Udgy, I'll leave the rest to you. I'm not finished with you yet, buddy. Mark my words. I warned you earlier, Mr. Wright. This is an affront to a senior officer in our nation's law enforcement agency. Wah! Lady Luck, Maybe we should have a word with her. Mr. Edgeworth? What do you mean? There's one lady who knows the real truth behind this trial. We haven't yet had the honor of hearing her testimony. A lady who knows the truth. Another witness. In the absence of conclusive evidence, the only other method of proof is testimony. But Chief Gant has invoked his right to refuse to testify. There's still someone else. One more witness who can answer all the questions raised in this trial. Someone right in this very room. Mr. Edgeworth, who is this person? Why are you asking me, Your Honor? Have you forgotten? The defense is the one calling the witnesses today. Mr. Wright, does such a witness exist? Yes, she does. She may not be willing to tell the truth, but we can't just stop now. Yes, Your Honor. The defense calls forth Lana Skye.
Take that!
The defendant. Miss Lana Skye? She was in the underground parking lot at 5:15 on February 21st. Her task? To dispose of the victim's body. In accordance with a certain someone's orders. Mr. Edgeworth. The prosecution has no objections, Your Honor. Very well. The court will now take its final recess for the day. In 15 minutes, we will reconvene to hear the defendant's testimony. This court is now in Hold on! Huh? Chief Gant! I thought you were going to eat. Still got something else to say for us, Zeus? Listen good, Lana. He's talking to Lana. I don't think you need me to tell you this, but if you accept Mr. Wright's claims, there will be terrible consequences. People of the court, are you witnessing this? Are you hearing this? Can we take this as an admission of guilt that he's manipulating her? Can we? Please? That's right. Your sister will be found guilty for Neil Marshall's murder. This isn't good. Of course, you never support such outrageous claims anyway. Right. Just something to think about. Alright then. I've got a lunch date to meet. Okay. If there aren't any further objections, you can try as hard as you want to write that incident off as something that it clearly wasn't, Judge, but I'm not going to let anybody write it off. Not for long. This court is now in recess. Okay, February 25th, 2:04 p.m. District Court Defendant Lobby number 2. Looks like we managed to stay in the game. Yeah, thanks to your help, Edgeworth. That chief. He's someone else, eh, pals? Yes, he is. Detective Gumshoe. I'm not a detective anymore. Oh, yeah. Sorry about that. Don't worry. I've already decided where to work now. At your office! I'm worried you'll trash the place. Or kill Charlie. Or both. My office? Sure! I'll take the place of that top naughty girl you used to work with. Nobody can take the place of Maya. Nobody! Could he mean Maya? Still. Looks like we're all out of moves now. Chief Gant's done it again. How is it he always gets the upper hand? It's not fair he has the right to refuse to testify. Settle down, Wright. Remember what the judge said. But Chief, that is not a right to be casually evoked. There are certain risks to be considered. Yes? Risks. What did he mean by that? It's simple. If the chief refuses to testify, the opposite also holds true. You mean he forfeits his right to say anything, too? Hey, Emma! Are you feeling better now? Emma! Are you okay? Yeah. When I came to, I was in the medical office. I've been listening to the trial from the gallery. So she heard everything that's been going on. Emma. I'm sorry for what I said before. No, don't be. It was the truth. You know, it's funny. I almost feel somehow relieved. Relieved? Yeah. Now I finally know what really happened. I think all this time, my sister was being blackmailed by that terrible man. And she did it all just to protect me. Lana's best big sister. Ever since her appointment as chief prosecutor, everyone who knew her said she changed. Perhaps it was easier that way for her. Probably was. What do you mean? What do you think I mean? To follow Chief Gant's orders. She must have shut herself up deep inside. To force herself to do anything and everything the chief told her to do. That must be why she became so cold. It was all my fault. It's all because I murdered Mr. Marshall. Hey, don't go blaming yourself now. If you want to blame anyone, blame society, pal. I think we should just go blame Zeus. Chief Gant may be able to fool everyone else with his forgery, but he can't fool my memory. I remember now. I knocked Mr. Marshall into that armor. I see. Well, we better get back. It's time for the final act. Indeed it is. Emma, why don't you wait? No. I'm going with you. I want to be there. When Lana tells the truth. Let's go, Wright. It's time to end this. Agreed. To be continued. Well, I guess next time will be our final showdown. We're gonna bring the complete and 100% truth of this whole case to the forefront once and for all. And I'm gonna make Chief Gant squirm in this witness stand, something fierce. Let me tell you, I'm kind of excited to relive this moment again. I hope you guys are too, if you stuck with me all the way up till this point. If not, then that's fine too. Regardless, if you enjoyed this episode and you want to see more content from me, feel free to subscribe to my channel. I'll see you guys for what I think will be the final episode of Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney. I will see you all then. Take care.